Hey everybody, this is the Sliders Review. I'm here today to talk to you about Tron Uprising, the series rundown review. So, Tron Uprising was an animated series that came out in 2012. It came out 2 years after Tron Legacy, the sequel to Tron, and it also came after Tron Evolution, which was a game that came out just a few months after, well, actually probably the same year that, the same month that the movie came out with. Now, I personally love Tron Legacy. I think that was a great movie, and it should have got a sequel. However, I do feel like other people is that the entire movie could have been chopped up into like 3 or 4 movies with the plots that happened in the movie. And so, like, sadly, they never got like a sequel. I don't know how the Tron Evolution game fared, but as you now know, Tron Legacy never had a sequel, and Tron Uprising didn't fare so well either. It only lasted for 1 season. Then after it got canceled, which, you know, it was on hiatus, it was on Disney XD, then they later put it on Disney Channel, and it still didn't do no good, and then they canceled it without giving an official notice that it was canceled. And so then they put it on Netflix, and it only lasted on Netflix for 1 whole year before they took it off. So people just aren't really feeling this, but it is on Disney Plus. How long Disney Plus will keep it? Hey, who knows? You know what I'm saying? Now, this was created by the creators of Lost and Once Upon a Time, Adam Horowitz and Edward Kishish. I'm not sure how to say his name. And you know, I've seen Tron Uprising twice. Back when it came out, and I just watched it like a few like days ago and stuff. Because there's a total of I think it's how many episodes? It's a total of 19. And you know, tell you the truth, it's not that bad. Like, it's pretty entertaining. The visual look of it is beautiful and stunning. It looks exactly, and I mean exactly, like Tron Legacy. It's just it's in animation style. Whatever type of technique they use, like a blend of CG and like 2D animation and cell animation, it looks awesome. Like, the light cycles look amazing. The trails of light look exactly the way they do in the movie. The only problem I have with the design are the people. The people are drawn very odd shaped and stuff. Their body shapes are very weird. Their heads are kind of okay looking for the most part, like their faces and stuff, but their body shape is bizarre. And when they move their bodies, it's even weirder when they run, when they fight. But other than that, everything else is flawless in animation style. And you know, but when they have their helmets on, their bodies look a bit better, but they still move very weird and jumbly type and stuff. But I was very shocked at how gorgeous the animation looks. Like, it really makes you want to. It makes me want a sequel for Tron Legacy so bad. I wanted to enter the grid so bad and play around with that stuff, boy. Let me tell you, like, it just looks so great. And so, like, one problem this series had, because it's kind of like, you know, the episodes really weren't that bad. They really wasn't. But there is a problem with this show. There's a couple of problems with this show, actually. And, you know, it's quite a shame, because like I said before, it's like really, really, really good. But here's the main problem that this show tried to do. It tried to tie everything into the bigger Tron universe. This movie, I mean, this cartoon series is connected to both the 2 Tron movies and the video game. So it's kind of doing like a Matrix type thing. They try to connect everything together. The difference between the Matrix and this is kind of like, you really don't have to see none of the other Tron properties to get the understanding of this series. I don't know why it's all connected. Because, like, it takes tiny bits of elements from Tron Evolution and tiny bits of elements from Tron Legacy, but it does its own thing. And not only that, but it breaks continuity. And that's a big problem right there. When you break continuity, then what's the point in connecting everything? And so that's one of the major flaws that I have with this show is that it breaks certain continuity. Like I'll explain. So like in Tron Legacy, we see the events happen when Clue 2.0 started to take over. He's talking with Flynn, he's talking with Tron. And so this is when Clue's all like, I'm not the superior program or whatever he said he is, and Kevin Flynn's just kind of like, yeah. And so then that's when Clue started his coup. That sounds too similar. And we see him attack Tron, and we see Kevin Flynn take off. And so in the movie, we see Tron gets hit really hard, right? But we don't really know what happened to him until later on in the movie. It turned out he was reprogrammed into RZA. So we assume that happens exactly the way it did, right? But in the animated series, they changed it. Everything plays out the exact same way, but then instead of Tron wearing his new black outfit, he's wearing his old white outfit that's redesigned to look more like the black outfit's just white. And that's a huge continuity problem because he was wearing his black one in the movie. Also, we assume because since Tron Legacy kind of like skipped over so much, and they had no business skipping over the good juicy stuff, we assume after he got hit, that's when Clue reprogrammed him. But no, he escaped. And he's been living and hiding his life. He's been living and hiding out. And apparently he's been recruiting certain people to become renegades and stuff for the whole uprising, the rebellion and stuff. And so that happened for like a good couple of months and stuff, probably even a year. And so then we assume when you get to the finale, I'll get to that a little bit later. So it has that continuity problem. And then not only that, but it turns out there was like another program who was watching the entire thing happen, a friend of Tron's. And then he turned his back on Tron. And so this person has never been seen in the game, never been seen in the movie. And so Tron has had a vendetta against him. So it's kind of like to build up the whole story of the cartoon series, but it doesn't last that long, that story arc. And so Dyson is his name. And so it's kind of like, okay, this don't make no sense. And then when you do get to the finale, when Tron is dying, see the thing about him, he's dying. He's in a healing tube in this entire series, right? And so this is why he can't do the rebellion stuff because he's hurt. And so that's when he recruits other people. And he has like this scar on his body and his face and this and that. Well, something happens to him when he got infected with a virus and it started to mutate and kill him faster. So to save him, he had to get reprogrammed, reprocessed and everything. But then, so we assume, okay, this is when he turns into RZA, right? No. At the end, apparently, the new renegade named Beck saves him before he's reprogrammed in the head. His body's healed. He's 100% fine. And then it ends. And it's like, okay, he doesn't turn into RZA. So when exactly did that happen? And that's the problem with this series. It's supposed to fill in the gaps, but it gives us more questions. And so this is the problem with trying to connect everything to the movies. There's gonna be continuity errors and stuff. And the problem with this series, they're introducing all these new characters we've never seen before in the movies and never saw in the video games. Now, Cora, she does appear in the video games, and she does appear in a flashback episode in this series, voiced by the same actress who played her in the movies. Now, if you ever played Tron Evolution, which I never did, but last night I decided to watch a couple of minutes of the cutscenes. If you watch that on YouTube, you will understand the bigger picture with the ISOs and like Tron Legacy, because they never really explain that in Tron Legacy. See, that's the problem with Tron Legacy. They didn't explain much. And so like, and it left people confused. And they kept thinking they were gonna get sequel after sequel to explain that stuff, but it didn't happen. This ain't a TV show. They took Tron Legacy and they wrote it like a TV show, but it doesn't work that way. It's a movie. So she shows up in this, and she looks exactly the same way she did in the movie. The animation, like I said before, is amazing. And so yeah. Now the problems I have with this series. And there's a couple of problems I do have with this series. Okay, so this is supposed to explain the uprising that happened in Tron Legacy with the rebellion programs that we saw in the bar trying to help out Flynn's son and stuff. However, there isn't much uprising going on in this. There isn't much rebellion going on in this series. Like this kind of reminds me more of Batman Beyond than it does like a freedom fighter trying to like stop the bad guys and like, you know, recruit others and stuff. Another problem I have with this series is that the episodes are episodic. This should have been a long story arc. Now, it is a long story arc with episodic episodes, but they feel so chopped up and like mashed around and misplaced. Certain things should have happened before certain episodes, and other things should have lingered on a little bit longer, and other things should have happened more towards the end. And sometimes they played their cards a little too fast too soon. And so like you never truly felt like this entire series connected to the movies. A little bit to the video game, because in the video game there is a renegade named Aeon who helps smuggle out ISOs, and he's helping to try to stop Clue and stuff like that. But he's never ever seen in the movies or the cartoon series. Now there is a part where Cora's all like, you know, she got smuggled out by a program, but we don't know who exactly that was, so we just assume it's him from the video game. Now, the cartoon takes place in Argon City, not Tron City. Those are two completely different things. Now, there's a graphic novel called Tron Betrayal. I don't know what that's about. I never bothered to read it. I'm not even gonna bother right now. So, like, even though the episodes, they were episodic that connected to a whole story arc, they felt kind of misplaced, and they felt like some random episodes just thrown in sometimes. And it's kind of like, why is this random episode just thrown in? That don't make no sense. It should have connected more to a bigger whole. Another problem I'm having are the characters. Like I said before, none of these characters ever appear in the movie. They should have found characters that were in the movie that had small minor roles and then put them in this series. Or what they should have did was create new characters, but show them all like dying at the end. So that way it won't mess up continuity of the movie, because like, hey, where are these people, you know? Because there is a lot of de-resing going on in this series. People die left and right, but of course when they get de-res, they turn into little blocks and stuff. And it's some of the most heart-wrenching stuff you ever seen from animation, because you know they're dead. And the way they die, it's just like, whoa. And stuff. Now, another problem I have with this series is the incorporation of some of their tech. Because this came out after Tron Legacy, they tried to bring in new stuff to look visually cool for the show. Like, we see that they had the ability to build, to create all these tools at once, and their tools are like holographic, very brightly colored shell shading stuff. And it just seems kind of weird. Like, it makes sense for the show, but we didn't see none of that in the movie. Also, like, you know, because like the main character Beck, he's a mechanic, so there's an actual mechanic workshop garage, and we always see them working on like bikes and cars and all this other stuff, and it's just kind of weird. Like, why would you manually work on something when all you have to do is take out like the hard drive of it and mess around with the computer graphics stuff to fix it, you know? So that was always kind of weird. And so they brought in all these new weapons and these tools that we never saw in Tron Legacy, and they're more powerful for that of the show and more interesting looking. So that's just kind of weird, because these things were never shown, you know? Now back to the characters. A problem I have with the characters is some of them are useless. Like, some are very genetic. like the bad guys. You have the one female bad person who is evil, smart, very strong, very skilled, and they give her a tragic backstory to make you like her and stuff. That's noble and stuff. At least it gives us a feeling to root for her. But her decisions that she makes in this show just makes you not want to root for her, especially towards the end. So giving her a tragic backstory is kind of pointless when we know she's going to keep being on the side of evil, even when evil tries to kill her and stuff. Then there's this other guy who is like a bad guy. I forget his name. And he's your generic villain, henchman who tries to get up higher in the ranks. And his motivations are never truly clear. It's just about as random can be. And so, like, it's kind of like he's your generic henchman. Then you have, like, General Tesla, who is the new main bad guy of this series. And he's about as generic can come. He wants to take over and oppress people. And the question is, why him? Why create this new mean uber bad guy? Why not bring in Clue? Because they do show Clue about 2 or 3 times in the show very briefly. And so, like, why not have him try to take over and everything? He is the main bad dude, you know what I'm saying? It should have focused more on him. Then there are Beck's best friends, Mara and Pebble. These two are useless in the entire show. They serve absolutely no purpose whatsoever. Why are they in this show? Why are they, like, I get they're his best friends, but they shouldn't have too much screen time. Like, there's always an A and B story. The A stuff is happening with Tron and Beck and the bad guys, and the B story is happening with Mara and Pebble, and they never connect to one another. It's like they're on their own little world doing their own little thing. And that's really stupid. Like, why do that? And these characters got on my nerves so much. I'm just like, de-reds them already and stuff. They're really pointless. The only time they ever prove useful to the stories is that Mara is all for the renegade and what he's doing. Pebble is not. Until it starts to switch towards the end, because Abel ends up dying and Mara blames the renegade and Pebble does not. But it doesn't really amount to nothing because later on Mara forgives the renegade and everything. Now another problem I'm having is Clue and Kevin Flynn's voice. It's 2 different times. Like, okay, it's voiced by a completely different actor. And sometimes you'll hear him talk and it sounds close to that of Jeff Bridges. But then they will show audio clip from something that happened with Jeff Bridges' character in the flashback. And so you're hearing 2 different voices and stuff. So that's kind of irritating. So the series is about what happened after the events of Tron Evolution. Aeon is never shown. Now, this show focuses on a young mechanic named Beck, voiced by Elijah Woods. Now, Elijah does a great job in this. However, the problem is he doesn't sound the way he's drawn. And that's kind of a little bit, like if he was the Pebble character, I would have believed that a lot more. But, you know, this dude, you know, he has that edgy look to him and Elijah doesn't sound edgy. Now, this series starts off with Beck. He's living in Argon City. He's a mechanic and he has a group of friends. Well, you know, the bad guys are doing what they're doing and his friend ends up getting de-res. Because of this, it causes him to be a rebel. And he decides he's gonna like chop off the head of a statue, Clue statue, and blow it up. Well, of course, the bad guys are chasing him and everything, and who finds him but Tron? And Tron wants to know why he did what he did, and he tells him. So Tron's all like, you're the perfect recruit. And so that's how that came all about. Now, my problem with Beck is that he's a dopey, nice guy mechanic who somehow knows how to do all these great fighting maneuvers, knows how to ride all these fancy, like, vehicles and stuff, and knows how to fight very well and do flips and this and that before Tron ever trained him. And it's kind of like that's not really believable. How does this little mechanic know how to do all this? Now, he said he played the disc games before we throw like the disc at people. And you have to be very agile with that. Okay, fine. But how does he know how to fight and everything so well? Because when you're programmed to do one thing, you really don't exceed your programming in this show. And it shows that some people kind of do. So we get a couple of scenes where he is trained by Tron. So that's great. We get to see that. But he knew how to do all this stuff before he got trained. So there's that, you know. And so basically, he goes about his day, and he's I think he's about to get captured by like the guards, and they want to like reprogram him and everything. And so like there's some other people there, and he helps free some. And so then next thing you know, one of the bad guys, he saves his life, and the dude's all like, wow, you saved me and everything. So as they're about to bond and be friends, he ends up getting derez, the bad guy. And so he ends up freeing this one program. He tells them, you know, keep the word alive, because they think he's all Tron. They think the renegade is Tron. And he wears a white outfit, kind of like a costume. Personally, I would have preferred the black one, but I get why they went with the white one, because more like a costume type thing, like a superhero thing. And so after that, we don't see that character that he saved, like, no more until like the end of the series. And then somehow, many months later, he gets reprogrammed, and he turns his back on Beck and stuff. And so like it was all for nothing. So throughout the series, we'll see him do like most random things, like he meets this one woman. They know them people where it's these women that wear white, and they give you like costumes and give you like a disc and all this other stuff. And so like he meets one of those type of women, and because his disc ends up getting stolen by just like some random dude and stuff. And we learn that if you don't have your disc for a long period of time, you start to lose your memories and stuff. And we don't know really why this guy stole his disc, just to steal it and everything. But he later gets derez, and then so the girl decides she's gonna help him escape, and then so she ends up getting derez, and that makes him feel like really sad. You know, he only knew her for like a brief time, and he didn't really know he could trust her because she was with the bad guys and stuff. And so it's random episodes like that that really don't have nothing to do with the story, you know what I'm saying? And so like trying to think, so like he basically now the stuff that makes that's really important for this series is that he tries to stop all the bad guys from doing what they're doing. Like he'll try to like blow up like a factory plant or something like that, you know. But then he ends up messing up the tanks to clues and stuff, like those little light tanks or whatever. And so they have to get those fixed, and they go to the garage where he works at. Well, now he puts all his friends in danger. And so now he has to redo what he did to sabotage those things. And his garage team is nearly about to be derez until they're able to fix it and everything. So it's kind of like, what was really the point of that? It's like you're supposed to take out the bad guy's stuff, but like, you know, now you have to fix it so your friends don't get killed. So that really doesn't help with the rebellion and stuff. And then there's the part where Dyson, I told you, come back, and then that makes Tron go like so angry, pissed, because he wants revenge on that dude for betraying him, to the point where he literally fights back and demobilizes him and stuff. And so he's just on this like revenge, like murder mission and stuff like that, until Beck is able to stop him and everything. And so he does a bunch of freedom fighter type stuff in this series that's kind of really pointless and stuff. And it's kind of like, you know, you're supposed to be recruiting people, but he's not recruiting people. He ends up falling in love with Paige, who is like the bad girl who works for Clue and everything. And he gives her some words of like advice that she takes, but then it ends up getting her in trouble. So then she decides, you know what, I had a weak moment, never gonna happen again, and I'm gonna continue working for them. And so they're trying to set up this whole romance, like cliche thing between those two. and try to get her to turn on the good side, but it's just not gonna work. You know what I'm saying? Because she's too devoted to like the bad people and stuff. Then like he meets like this other like trying to think what it is. He meets this other program that turns out to be like the original Renegade, other than Icon and stuff. And he's pissed at Tron because Tron trapped him, and kind of like this decompression file type thing. And he wants to get out, and he also wants to merge himself with that Beck. And so he ends up getting free, and he ends up making havoc for like Beck, like, you know, stuff like that. A good episode and everything. It was just kind of pointless because it really didn't go too far after that. But he did end up infecting Tron, who was dying faster. But then, like I said before, Tron got repurposed, but not fully, and so he never turned into RZA. So that was kind of like a pointless storyline. It would have been a better storyline if Tron had to sacrifice his own life to be RZA just so he can live and everything. But that never happened. So it never tied into the overall story of like the movie and stuff. And I remember, like, you know, it turns out that his garage like boss is a friend of Tron's. And so he always suspected that Beck was gonna be like, you know, the Renegade, because when Beck always goes missing. And it's one of those superhero type things. Beck is never there when all the bad stuff happens, but Tron always shows up. So people could never put the picture together, but Abel was able to. And Abel does not want Beck to be the Renegade. He wants him to stop interacting with Tron. Now, Abel helps out Tron every way he can and stuff. He's really smart and with technology and stuff, but he knows that, like, you know, Beck is gonna end up either de-res or end up in that decompression program like that other Renegade dude. And then so Abel meets his fate by trying to, like, you know, save Beck. And that will cause Mara to hate like the Renegade and everything. Then there's other episodes where we see how like they get programmed. So it's kind of like, okay, now we finally get to see this happen because we never saw it in Tron Legacy. And it makes sense and it's kind of cool. But then they come up with other ways, like a gas, and the gas brainwashes you. This was never shown in Tron Legacy. And also, why did they abandon that program and stuff? Because the gas worked a whole lot faster than reprogramming and stuff. Because it's kind of like, you know, there is this rave party going on and Mara ends up getting brainwashed and Pebble has to save her. But then there's other times where a couple of the younger people, like who work in the garage, they're getting tired of Clue and everything. So they start like trashing the city with graffiti and stuff. This causes, of course, a lot of people to be rounded up and all this other stuff. And so it's kind of like there was never really a rebellion going on with the people in this show. And that was kind of like the whole purpose what the show was supposed to be about, the rebellion and how all that started. Because Clue has already taken over the whole grid. So these people are oppressed. But then, you know, when all this bad stuff happening with the generals and stuff coming in, they just let it all happen. And nobody ever tries to fight back. And the only reason why Beck did is because his friend got de-res and stuff. And so he never really tried to recruit too many people. And then when he tried to recruit this one person, it turns out that one person was already brainwashed and everything. So, and then when, of course, like I said before, when it comes to the bad girl, what happened with her is that, you know, she had a bunch of friends. She's a medic. And so she found one of the ISOs, Cora. And then next thing you know, so she told on Cora and stuff. And so Cora and her friend, who's another ISO, they flee. So when General Tesla comes in, he murders Pages, that's the bad girl, like her friends, and he blamed it on the ISO. So that, of course, made her want to join and everything. But like I said before, and she's really evil and everything, but she does have a conscience every now and then. But then for some reason, she falls in love with Beck. So it's kind of like she ain't that bad. But then when you want her to turn to the good side, and they was getting close to that, they had her be all like, oh no, my heart is with Clue and blah, 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 and I'm going to serve him and blah, 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 blah. So it was kind of like pointless and everything. And it was pointless giving her that tragic backstory just for her to continue working for the bad people. And she knows they're bad because that one generic bad dude set her up. and everything and framed her for something. And so, like, she still sided with those people and stuff. Then they do something in the show where they create this disc that gives you super strength. Beck had it at first when he stole it. He used it and it corrupted his mind. He destroyed it, but the bad guy fixed it and everything. And then when he fixed it, that's when he framed like Paige and this and that. So nothing became of that disc really. So what was the point in creating it? Because we never saw that in Tron Legacy, that this disc can like enhance your strength and everything. So it was kind of like, when it comes to this series, it was like, it's good and it's interesting, but a lot of stuff just doesn't make a lot of sense that's supposed to connect to the bigger world of that of Tron Legacy and stuff. Because none of these characters ever show up again. So it was pointless creating them. And it was kind of pointless in having a bunch of rando episodes. And some of them don't connect to the bigger picture. And the other ones that do, like the ones that don't connect, should have been happening first. And some of them did. But then they also had ones that did connect to the story happen in the beginning as well. So it was just kind of like they just chopped a bunch of episodes up and just threw everything in a blender and be like, here's your show. And it really didn't have a nice flow to it. And that's probably one of the reasons why a lot of people disconnected. Because a lot of people couldn't understand what was the point of this show. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's just supposed to be another generic superhero type show like Batman Beyond. Because Batman Beyond works the way it does because there's no overarching story plot to it. But there's an overarching story plot to this show that never really got the ball rolling and stuff. And when they threw in those bunch of random episodes, you tend to lose interest in everything. And then when you get to the finale, well, you're just kind of like, well, this is stupid and pointless because you made us assume something was gonna really connect to Tron Legacy, but then it doesn't. And so what was really the point and stuff? So that's pretty much Tron Uprising. There wasn't much of an uprising. They shouldn't even have called it that. Now, they should have focused more on Tron Evolution. They should have brought him in as the renegade and stuff. And, you know, and then try to connect that to the movie and everything. But they sadly did not. Or they could have made a show about Cora. People love Cora. And it would have been nice to see her on the run and how she interacts with people. And, you know, maybe she could have been like a freedom fighter type thing. But for a show that's supposed to be about a bunch of freedom fighters, there wasn't much freedom fighting going on and stuff. Because the people were too scared to act. And then once they did start to act, they stopped acting after that. Yeah, but hey, you know, I mean, they tried. I mean, like I said before, it's interesting. Check it out. Like, you will love the visuals and stuff. It's just, the story is a bit of a mess. Plus, not only that, but doing prequels suck because if it doesn't connect to the overall story, then what's the point? Because, like, they kept insinuating that Tron is dying throughout the entire series. But we know for a fact he never dies in Tron Legacy. So that spoiled that right then and there. And Clue should have been the main focused bad guy. And he only shows up in the flashback in the first episode. And then he shows up at the very end as he heads to Argon City and stuff. And that right there was the biggest mistake. He should have been front and center throughout the entire series. Alrighty, well, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye.